Hi, welcome to Demo Garage. I'm Steven, and in today's episode I'll be working on the sunroof and finally completing a long-term project. Back in October-ish, I replaced the damaged sunroof. Damage occurred when the vehicle was delivered to me from Michigan, and I had a really nice Hearts cloth exterior fabric installed, but I wasn't ready and I didn't have the material, or I had material and I didn't realize that the material couldn't just be assembled, needed to actually be sewn. So in this part 2 episode of the sunroof, I'm going to be installing the inside fabric. So come along with me and I'll show you how I did that. Okay, so this is the sunroof inner headliner. The original. You can see it comes with this foam. I've got foam to be glued onto the forward header, but there's actually quite a bit to this. There's this little sleeve here, and then there's some nylon strapping sewed over on the edge, and there's some welting that slides into a channel on the back. So I've got some nylon webbing I'm hoping to use. Not sure what I'm going to use for this. I might even try just cutting this up and grabbing the original welting out. But so I've got this piece of vinyl that is part of my headliner kit, and it's not, doesn't have any of these pockets or anything in it, so I got to do some sewing. And yeah, so I've got a little bit of a sewing experience. We'll see how this works out. I've already recreated this pocket as a practice. And yeah, so I'm gonna kind of trim this to place and try and maybe press the edges. And when I've got something more to show you, I'll bring you back. All right, bye. Okay. I'm bringing you back because I'm a little bit at odds on the next step I'm going to take. I've done a fair bit of sewing in my life, and this vinyl material does not press with the iron. It just kind of melts. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to proceed. This is the reinforcing strap. You can see on the original. So what I need to do is I need to flip this over and then embed this guy in here. And I'm thinking of using contact cement. So that's going to be, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spray a little contact cement, and then I'm going to try and fold that over. And I mean, it's just vinyl. If I screw this up, I can buy some more. So not that big a deal, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'll let you know how that turns out. All right, so I changed my mind and I went with the spray adhesive. I masked off the areas I wanted to expose. So I sprayed the reinforcement. I'm going to flip that over, stick it right in this cross along this edge, and then I'm going to flip this guy over, and I'm hoping to recreate this edge right here with the reinforcement in. Once it's glued down, then I will follow up with a stitch. So, yep, no contact cement, went with the spray glue. Let's see how that works. I'll bring it back. Okay, so I have the first stitch done. That spray glue worked out great. Fold it right over, give me a nice edge to sew along. There wasn't a stitch like this on the original, but I didn't think it could hurt anything. So the next step is to fold this side over and add this welting. Hopefully it'll be, I can simulate that so it'll slide right into the rear section. But yeah, pretty happy with that. Nice and tight. I don't think the glue is going to hurt anything. I think it's going to be great. So far so good. Yeah. I'll bring you back when I have the next step done. Okay, so the next step is this bottom flap and the welting. I just went ahead and cut this stiffener out of the original because I kind of forgot about it, but maybe I couldn't find something of the right diameter. So I'm hoping just to glue this stiffener into the correct position. And again, I'm going to use the spray glue to flip that flap over, and then I'll secure it with a stitch. So I'll bring you back when I have something to show you. Thanks. Okay, so pretty successful seamstress weekend. I've turned just a normal vinyl piece into something I hope will be the interior portion of the sunroof. So I'm hoping it's the right width. I've incorporated the reinforcement straps, this pocket, and I cut out the welting material from the original. This is the foam that I have that I actually have that as part of the headliner material that came from the previous owner. So I've sewn in the welting material from the previous time. I've got the, hopefully, pocket in the right place. I've got the welting material, the reinforcement nylon strap, and it's a little bit long, so I'm hoping to stretch that into a reasonable looking interior. And yeah, so this is the next step for the sunroof part 2 material, and you might not see this one until I've got the headliner video installed, but yeah, pretty pleased with how this went, and I'll bring you back. Thanks. It's kind of funny, but you know, actually one of the benefits of making these videos is that I'm going back to my old footage to figure out how I took this thing apart and how it goes back together. Yeah, I don't remember, so here we go. I got an archive, a wealth of knowledge that I can go back to, and I just thought you might find that fun. So that's what I'm doing right now, is watching one of my old videos. Okay, so by now, you've probably already seen all the clips of me sewing the new internal part, and I'm actually up to current time. Let's see, what is it? March 28th. Yes, March 28th. And so now watch my video, and it's very embarrassing. I don't know if you've ever seen video of yourself, but it's like I could have done this or whatever. Anyway, so I pulled out the old interior piece, and I don't know if you can see, here's the one that I had sewn, and hopefully I've done a good job on that. I don't even remember doing it now. But there's a piece of foam attached here, and I've got a piece of foam. So probably one of my first steps is to go ahead and glue this guy on. And I'll be using spray glue for that, but I found that the contact cement works way better on edges. So when I'm doing a big surface, I'll use the spray glue, and then, like I said. Okay, so that'll be my first step. And then, this thing's a mess. And then by watching my video, I'm reminded that I can basically pull this outer edge off by sneaking in here. Let me not knock over my iPad, but if I sneak in here and peel back this edge, I have access to these two. Let's see, is that gonna focus? There's two little slotted screws there. And based on my video, I found that if I take this screw out here and on the other side, I might be able to separate all of this. So let me go ahead and glue this guy on, pull those two screws out, and I'll bring you back after I've done that. Well, I brought you back for an early clip because it was surprisingly easy. Once I pulled those two screws out, this part peeled off, and I didn't remember it being the case. So you've got one clip there and one clip there. So this guy and this guy, and it just engages with this angle iron piece, just slips in here and there, and then you can see the two screw holes. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. I don't think it's going to be all that easy. The part I'm worried about is sliding in the new sewn piece and then figuring out how taut it needs to be glued over this edge so that it looks good. So I'm envisioning installing this piece in and taking it off, in and taking it off a couple of times. So that'll be the fun part, and that'll be the part where I save you lots of time and figuring out how to do it the first try. So yeah, so let me go ahead and pull this off the table, glue on that foam piece. Okay, bringing it back for another clip again. So I'm not using the foam that came with it because you can see it's quite a bit shorter than the original. So I just happen to have some foam that I'm going to use instead. It's pretty equivalent. And I'm going to go ahead and glue my foam on. So just wanted to bring you back on, I don't even remember where this foam came from. I think it might have been in the headliner kit, not really sure. But for some reason it's a different width, so I'm not going to use it. Maybe bring your own foam. BYOF. Okay, so I got this foam glued on here. And I think the next step I'm going to take is I'm going to slide this guy back in this pocket and hope that I have sewn it on in a decent location. I'm going to have you note that this appears to be, based on going seconds ago looking back on my video, is the right orientation of this guy. So I've straightened out this end and I'm going to slide it in. And then I think the next thing I'm going to do is I have sewn in this welting, and I'm going to try sliding it in place back here on this edge. And I'm going to do that and see what happens, and I'll bring it back. Okay, so far so good. And I know from past experience that these wrinkles will come out easy enough with the application of a heat gun. I did find sliding the welting into this frame a tight fit, and I made it a little easier by putting a flat blade screwdriver in there and kind of opening up this channel a little bit. But I've eventually got it in. And then, as you can see, I've slid this guy in. So the distance So I guess the tautness from this edge will be based on me pulling this over and gluing it on. And because these riveted components will set the distance from this pocket to here. And then it's gonna come down to how, I guess, good a job I did sewing this distance from the pocket to the welting. So, you know, there's always some adjustment here. I can always pull this back apart and do something with the pocket. So what's my next step? I wonder if I have a Cleco, and I wonder if I can put a Cleco in here and on this part. Starting to get dark. I'm starting to get tired. I think maybe the first thing to do in the morning will be to maybe put this guy actually on the roof and throw a couple of bolts in, and then pull a taut and see what that looks like. Yeah, so again, no experience doing this. You can live vicariously through my experiences here, and I hope your installation of your sunroof goes quicker than mine. Learn from my mistakes, and I'll bring you back tomorrow morning when I've got this thing sitting on top and possibly screwed in, unless I have an epiphany in the middle of the night and I want to try something different. I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, have a good evening. Okay, so I've got the sunroof sitting back on top, and I got a few of the bolts in the back here. And I think, let's see, and I've got this part hanging. I think my next step is going to be to actually reinstall this guy now that I kind of have a plan in my head. I'm gonna stick that back onto here and go ahead and close it. And then I'm wondering if I can't at that time stretch this guy and do a partial gluing of that face on, you know, maybe just in the back inch here to give me a position on that guy. So I'm going to install that, and then I'm going to go in and look to see if that seems like a feasible avenue. So give me a minute. I'll bring you right back. Okay, I'm going to chalk this up to not remembering how this thing went together or anything. I had the false idea that this thing lived on this side of the rail, and I realize now that it doesn't. Because there's no way that happens. And also, I'm like looking at the width of this thing, and this is going to overlap the outside, and I've made it, you know, like the original. And so that lives up there too. I'm gonna look through that, my video again. On a positive note, when I grab this guy and I pull this taut, I'm seeing, I don't know if you remember, but this guy rivets up here to a hole, and that's going to set the distance between this pocket and this face. And I think I can tell that that's going to line up pretty decent. So I think rather than trying to glue this guy on in this situation, I think I'm going to take this all apart again. And I'm remembering that this kind of goes into pockets and there's some other clips. I think I'm gonna roll the dice. It's only time and money, right? I'm gonna roll the dice and I'm going to trust that I made this well enough where I'm gonna go ahead and pop rivet these on, and that'll set the distance between, sorry. So I'm gonna pop rivet these on and that'll set the distance between here and this edge, and I'm gonna pull it tight and install it. I hope I made this thing well. So yeah, so now I'm gonna pull this all apart. It appears now, maybe I got some satisfaction from kind of seeing what it's gonna look like. It's got a lot of wrinkles in it, so I'm gonna take the heat gun to it, as you saw in my, I don't know, my first part sunroof video. So yeah, this is going okay. I'm gonna pull it down and continue on with making this more permanent in the sunroof. So let me bring you back. Okay, so going back to my own video, I found what happens is I need to make a slit in this outer one, basically where I've done a white chalk mark here. And then it's gonna be yay wide. And then I'm gonna slip this guy from the outside and into that slit. And then this guy used to be like stapled over like that. And so I'm gonna do some version of that. Maybe I glue it, maybe I staple it, I'm not really sure. But so I'm gonna do that for both sides. And then I might go ahead and pop rivet this back together. Yep. I think I'm gonna watch my video again. But I think that's what I need to do. I think I need to make the slit, stick this guy in there, make a new version of this. This is the old one. I'm gonna make a new version. I've got some leftover material, and then probably pop rivet that guy on. And then I'm thinking I pull this taut once this space is defined. And of course I gotta cut it out around all this good stuff here. Pull it over. You know, I need to look at why the strapping was in here. Does that somehow get pop riveted too? Not really sure why that's there. I gotta look into that. But I'm gonna do the slit, put those guys in, do something here, pop rivet this guy, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've cut that slot. You know, I just kind of marked it, where squared it up, marked it, put a backing behind it, and then used a sharp blade, and that looks pretty good. But I realized after watching a little bit more of my video, which I'm doing again and again, is that this is as far as I want to go at this point. So the next step will be to remove this part and deal with the inner part. I'm going to leave them attached. I'm going to leave this slit in the back. But what I need to do is I need to go ahead and pop rivet these on, glue this guy on, and it actually goes around the corner, and I'll show you that. But so I'm going to slide this out, and then I'm going to open it up. I know I'm not explaining myself well. I'll bring you back in another clip. Okay, so this is what I was trying to describe. I've now got this part unbolted again. It's those two Phillips screws that's hold it all together. And it's still connected at the back, and I've got it kind of folded up. This is the external part, this is the internal part. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of pop rivets in this guy. And so here and there, I'm going to connect these guys. And then that should set the distance between here and here. And then I feel like I can pull this taut and glue this surface and this surface. And it actually pulls around here and then kind of glues over the edge here. So I think I'll probably do a spray here, and then I'll probably do contact cement here and here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and pop rivet these on, and then probably spray here and here and pull it taut, and then I'll bring it back as I'm making the transition around. And of course, there's going to be some work to cut the opening for this guy. There's a trim piece. So, yeah. Yep. And I guess I should probably go ahead and put a couple of pop rivets there, because I'm hoping not to... I hadn't put them all in because I thought there might be an opportunity where I'd have to take this out again. I'm going to try and do it without doing that. So, yep. So I'm going to do those pop rivets, glue this surface just to the top, pulling it taut as much as possible, and I'll bring it back. Okay, so I've got these two pieces riveted on, and I got some basic taping done so I don't get the glue where I don't want it to get it. And so I'm gonna spray those surfaces, let them get to the phase where they're not tacky anymore, and I'm gonna pull taut the this new inner surface and bring them together. Not too exciting, but this is the next step. I'll bring it back. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I got that fairly taut and fairly straight, square. I'm at the point where I'm gonna now pull this over, and I realize that with this hook sticking out, it was gonna be harder to pull this over. So I've gone to the trouble of disconnecting the bar, and yeah, so now it'll be easy. I'm just gonna put contact cement on this face and the foam, wait for it to get not tacky, and pull it up. And then when that's done, I'm gonna do this inside edge and then this edge and pull it over. And on the corner, oh, okay, that's right, I remember now. So this little protrusion, I think, will kind of cut into this face. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back with the results. Okay, so here's what I have going on. I now have the vinyl wrapped around, and I've got the extra webbing cut off and jammed into this, I don't know, spike, and I got it wrapped around and glued down, and I've got the latch mechanism reassembled. Everything looks pretty good. I've got the this part, pop riveted back on, and I used my heat, the soldering iron kind of melted through the vinyl here, and I've got a trim piece, but it's all broken up. So I'm planning on, I guess maybe I don't know, 3D printing that. And I've got this part trimmed down to a minimum. And so now I'm trying to decide, do I glue, I guess I'm gonna glue that down and then grab it. This is a trim piece. So I don't know what to do with this. Looks pretty bad. It's all broken up. So it's broken up here. I'm sure this is unobtainium. Didn't mind the way it looked without the interior lining, but now I've got this vinyl and padding, and I'm sure I can put this on. There's a couple of screws here, but this looks pretty ugly. So I'm not sure I'm going to install it now, but it's always something I can install later. I guess maybe I'll peel that back and glue this down to some respect. I'll do a better job at trimming this and gluing it down, but I'm not sure I'm going to install this yet. But yeah, so far so good. It's looking pretty good. Definitely need to hit this with the heat gun. So I guess the next step is to maybe spend a little time on this mechanism and get it glued down good. And then I'll look at throwing it back on the car. So we shall see. I'm hoping this looks okay. Actually, no. I need to fold this back over and insert these guys into the slits I made. So I'll bring it back after I do whatever I'm going to do with this top edge, gluing it down, and I'll bring it back. Okay, so this is as much trimming as I'm intending to do around this guy. And as bad a condition as this is in, I am going to slap it in there and install it. Tiny little screws. If anyone knows where to get a replacement for this guy, please, please, please let me know. Maybe in the future I try and 3D print something. Not really sure. And then I think I'm probably not going to, I think I am going to 3D print this front one. So I'll be installing that later. The next step is I'm going to try and sneak in here and install these two screws. So I hope that's possible. Yeah, that might be interesting. But so I'm not expecting to remove this cover anymore. So let me bring it back. Okay, I had another microphone issue. Probably forgot to turn it on. I did get those two screws installed, and I'm just basically saying here that you got to have that latch in the open position, and then you have to remove this this side guide out of the slot that I cut, and then kind of stand it up on end, create some space. So yeah, we got to pull it out of the slot and you got to stand it up. Would have been a lot easier with two people, but it is doable, and I got it done. And that's basically what I'm saying in this clip. Leave the latch in the open position. Okay, I'm rewatching another section of my old video, and I see I've made a mistake. It appears that these 4 pop rivets, or 5 pop rivets, I should have removed this and then had the new material sandwiched in between them. And I think I'm not going to bother with that now. It went on okay. I guess if I have issues, then I'll pull this off and do that. But I think I'm gonna leave. I think I'm gonna leave the material on the way I have it. But you guys should probably do it the correct way. So go ahead and run the fabric over that, and then reattach this piece. So, yep. Just so don't make my mistake, but I think I'm going to leave my mistake as is, at least for now. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to install these guys, and the way they work is they fold in half and come over this material. So they were stapled. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Anyway, they sneak under here, and then they were stapled like that, but I think I'm going to glue them on. And I think actually I might make these a little bit longer. Well, no, I think that's going to be fine. So they're not going to be quite folded in half. I'm going to glue the, to the bottom side, fold it over, and just glue right here. And I'll do that on both sides. And I can always add staples later if I wanted to, but I'm going to try the glue for now. All right, bring it back. Okay, so maybe the very last thing I do before putting this thing on is I'm reminded I've got these little clips here, and I'm checking out the video again. Glad I made this video, as I mentioned before. So what I think I'm going to do is this guy slides on like that. And then so I'm going to make a little slit here between the straight stitch and whatever profile this is. So I'm going to make a slit something like this. And then this guy is going to clip in, and I'm going to pull it taut, and it's going to, I guess, hold that out. I'll do that on both sides. I'll bring you back. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Just a little slit in the fabric, and then clipped over the edge, and of course I did both sides. So now I'm gonna throw this bad boy back on the vehicle, and when it's taut, I'm gonna go after some of these wrinkles with a heat gun. So we're coming near to the end of this video. I think it's looking pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with my sewing ability on this guy. So I hope it looks good from the inside when it's attached. So we'll see. I'll bring it back. Oh yeah, look at that. Sunroof is back on. But this time, the inside is done as well. Boy, that just turned out beyond my expectations. I think that just looks really great. Looks really good with the new headliner and the new sun visors, and yeah, that just turned out exactly like I had in my head. So with that done, that completes the sunroof part 2. Specifically the inside headliner portion. And I'd like to thank you for coming along. I hope you learned something. I know I did. And I hope you join me on the next video. So, bye.